Hello everybody, my name is Noah Taff and welcome to my review of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, a sequel to Godzilla 2014. To sum up this movie for you, this movie had a really shitty plot, but honestly, who cares? So do most Godzilla movies. It had a bunch of awesome monster fighting, and that makes it fine. The critics didn't seem to like this movie because basically this is how I sum it up for you. Godzilla 2014, the critics said, oh, well, the movie had too much human plot and not enough Godzilla. And now, with this movie, they say, oh, well, the movie had too much Godzilla and not enough human plot. First of all, that don't make no fucking sense. How can there be too much Godzilla? You can never have too much Godzilla in a movie called Godzilla. So, honestly, this movie delivered on what it was supposed to deliver on, and I think it was great, just because of that. Again, the plot was shitty, but because it delivered on what it was supposed to, I think it was great. But let's get into what happened in this movie. So we flash back to the events of Godzilla 2014 to start the movie, where we meet the Russell family, who lost their son Andrew in the attacks. Back to current time, we meet Emma Russell, who looks like Elizabeth Olsen, but is not Elizabeth Olsen. Interestingly enough, Elizabeth Olsen was in the first movie, but this is not Elizabeth Olsen. She lives with her daughter Madison, who is played by the girl from Stranger Things. What's her name? Millie Bobby Brown, I believe her name is. And they live in China. They go down to a research facility where they have a giant egg that is Mothra. Mothra ends up hatching, but they use this Orca sonar device to calm her down. Just as they've gotten it, though, the rest of the scientists gets blown up by these eco-terrorists that come in, and they get supposedly kidnapped by said terrorists. So meanwhile, the doctor duo of Serizawa and Graham, aka the only two people from the fucking first movie, find Emma's ex-husband Mark and tells him that his wife and daughter have been kidnapped. They all go to Antarctica to try to stop the eco-terrorists from freeing a monster trapped in ice who is labeled Monster Zero. They stage a rescue attempt. They also have their own private military thing or whatever. I don't know if it's the actual military, it's their private military, who cares? And they try to get Emma and, what's the girl's name? I forget, Madison back. I have it right here, but I'm not gonna look down and think of her name. No, I forgot her name. There it is. It's Madison. They try to get Emma and Madison back, but turns out Emma's kind of an asshole and then doesn't let Mark get them back, and then she presses the button on the Orca and fucking awakens Monster Zero, who is revealed to be no one else but King Ghidorah. Oh god, you awaken King Ghidorah, good job, dumbass. So King Ghidorah wakes up and he's like, rah, I got 3 heads and shit, and then he fucking uses lightning and shit and just like fucking lightnings all the dudes. Also, there's a weird part where like Mark is like looking at Ghidorah, he's running from him, but then he's magically back in the helicopter. Like he's down with all the dudes that are getting killed by Ghidorah, but then he's just magically in the helicopter. I guess he was fast as shit. Meanwhile, Godzilla shows up, and Ghidorah and Godzilla have their first battle. There isn't a clear-cut winner to this. By the way, Graham ends up getting killed in the battle, and Ghidorah ends up flying away while Godzilla just pouts, I guess. The group then learns that Emma and Jonah, by the way, is the eco-terrorist leader's name, are going to Mexico to try to awaken Rodan, and then they get a Skype call or whatever from Emma, who just says a bunch of whack shit. Basically about, oh, how the monsters are like, what was it? The monsters are the Earth's solution to the human sickness. Like, the humans are destroying the Earth. They got all hippie on me, and it's all true. But, like, well, the stuff about the humans destroying the Earth. But then it's like, the monsters are the cure, and the monsters will, like, wipe out the humans, but it's fine because they'll save the planet, man. And it's a bunch of dumb shit. And then the Skype call, and they wake up Rodan in a volcano in Mexico, and there's this part where fucking Rodan's just like there in the volcano, and he's just chilling. He's just like surveying the land. He's like, oh yes, everything looks cool. So they're like, hey, let's fucking shoot missiles at him. So of course Rodan gets pissed and starts following the Monarch jets. Monarch, by the way, is, I don't know if I explained this, is the name of the group that's trying to control the Titans or whatever. Not the eco-terrorist group, the other one, the good guy group. And he starts chasing him, and then Godzilla shows up, and then Ghidorah shows up, and then they start fighting. Oh no, first Ghidorah shows up and starts fighting Rodan. And then Godzilla shows up and starts fighting Ghidorah, and Godzilla actually tears one of Ghidorah's heads off, and the fucking military call, and they're like, yo, we got this thing called an oxygen destroyer that'll, like, destroy all the oxygen in, like, a 2-mile radius. Yeah, we just had that lying around, you know, it's convenient. We just had a fucking oxygen destroyer. So they launch that bitch and kill Godzilla. Good job, dumbasses. You killed Godzilla. And meanwhile, Ghidorah's fucking fine. His head regenerates, and Rodan's like, oh, damn, shit. So Rodan's like, whatever, yeah, I'll fucking, like, serve you and shit. So he bows. And meanwhile, all the other Titans awaken. They don't really give them names, but one of them was like a giant woolly mammoth or some shit. They all wake up, and they all are servants now to Ghidorah. And that's why he's King Ghidorah. However, Ghidorah is a false king because it's revealed through mythological texts. Ooh, that Ghidorah is actually an alien. And he controls the Titans through fucking alien shit. I don't know. And meanwhile, Mothra wakes up and tries to make contact with Godzilla. Turns out Godzilla's alive. Bet you didn't see that coming. But he's like mortally wounded or whatever. Or he's got like a recharge and shit. I don't know. So they're able to find Godzilla. He's just like underwater chilling in his own like sanctuary or whatever. But turns out he needs to like recharge or whatever, and the natural process is gonna take like 2 years, and they don't have that kind of time. So they're like, oh hey, we got this fucking nuke lying around. Let's just nuke him. let's just nuke Godzilla to wake him up. But somebody has to do it manually, so Serizawa sacrifices himself. He takes the nuke and nukes Godzilla and himself, and Godzilla wakes up. Meanwhile, Emma is starting to realize that she's kind of an asshole and let's go back on her plans. Her daughter Madison's also kind of realizing that she's kind of an asshole and steals the Orca, takes it to Fenway Park in Boston, and broadcasts a signal which is going to lead all the Titans to Boston, because that's a good idea. Unfortunately for her, Ghidorah shows up first, tries to destroy the Orca, but then Godzilla shows up with Monarch in tow. So they reveal that due to the fucking nuke they launched at him, Godzilla is going to go completely nuclear and basically blow shit up in about 15 minutes, so they have that much time to get out of there. Meanwhile, Godzilla battles Ghidorah, Mothra shows up, but Rodan shows up as well, and they fight. Meanwhile, Emma and Mark reunite with their daughter Madison, and they try to repair the Orca to distract Ghidorah. And then Mark and Madison escape, but Emma stays on the ground and has the Orca, and she's gonna use it to lure Ghidorah away from Godzilla because Godzilla's kind of gotten his ass kicked. Mothra, meanwhile, is able to defeat Rodan, doesn't kill him, but he's able to defeat it. But then she gets on top of Godzilla and like tries to protect him, and Ghidorah just fucking murks her. So Mothra's dead, but Godzilla absorbs her essence or whatever. Meanwhile, Emma's driving a car away from Ghidorah with the Orca and is able to lead him away. Emma ends up dying because, yeah, she's being chased by fucking King Ghidorah. Godzilla, though, is now nuclear and shit and uses his nuclear powers to basically evaporate Ghidorah, so he's dead too. To end the movie, Rodan, the giant woolly mammoth dude, and the other Titans converge on Godzilla and look like they're about to attack him, but instead they bow and shit. And we finally get around to the title of the movie, Godzilla is the king of the monsters. Meanwhile, in the end credits, we learn a lot. Monarch made the information about the Titans public. The Titans are going to Skull Island. Mothra has recocooned, or it's a second Mothra egg. It's a new Mothra. Mothra 2.0, and it looks like there's some ancient drawings which show there's going to be a battle between Godzilla and King Kong. Meanwhile, there's a post-credit scene where a fisherman has found one of Ghidorah's severed heads and sells it to Jonah, so maybe Ghidorah ain't gone after all. So again, basically, this movie had a really uninteresting and boring-ass plot, but it had awesome monster fighting. And it's not like any of the Japanese Godzilla movies have plot either. I mean, the first movie, to be honest, I liked, but just because they gave us Walter White at the beginning to make up for the fact there's no Godzilla, but then they killed Walter White within 20 minutes, so the time frame in between no Walter White and Godzilla was kind of boring, but at least we got Godzilla eventually, and he was awesome. But, again, they delivered on what you wanted this time. They gave you awesome monster fighting, and I liked it. And in conventional sense, this would not be a good movie, because, like, it's like, oh, the plot sucked and the actors were boring and all that. But, you know what I would compare this movie to? Freddy vs. Jason. Here's the thing about Freddy vs. Jason. Freddy vs. Jason, in conventional sense, was not a good movie. The plot was boring, the actors were uninteresting, and also there was some weird plot changes, like Jason's magically afraid of water. What? But the only thing that movie was supposed to deliver on was Freddy vs. Jason. And the Freddy vs. Jason fight scenes were awesome. So, considering that movie delivered on the one thing it was supposed to deliver on, I would make the argument that that's a good movie. And I would make the same argument for this movie. People didn't care about the plot, people didn't care about the actors. This movie delivered on the one thing people wanted to see, and that's Godzilla fight Ghidorah and a bunch of awesome monster shit. And that's what we got. So, because of that, because this movie delivered on the one thing it was supposed to, I would argue this is a good movie, and I would give it an 8 out of 10. Because it delivered on what it was supposed to. That's what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to give awesome monster fights, and it did. So there you go. Now we await Godzilla vs. King Kong. Let me see if we have a date on this. March 13th, 2020 is when Godzilla vs. Kong is scheduled to release. I think that's going to be the last of this Godzilla franchise. Does this, like... does this count towards the original Godzilla franchise? I think it's like a spin-off franchise, but I think this is just supposed to be a trilogy. So, what are my predictions for Godzilla vs. Kong? I got one right now. They fight, it ends up being a draw, they pull a Batman vs. Superman, they find out they both know a girl named Mothra, and then Ghidorah comes back and they both fight Ghidorah. That's my prediction for Godzilla vs. Kong. Am I going to be right? Probably. But that has been my review for Godzilla King of the Monsters. Again, it delivered on the only thing it was supposed to deliver on, so I think it was a good movie. 8 out of 10. See it for yourself. By the way, I saw an IMAX 4DX. 4DX was a hell of an experience, I'll tell you what. It's not something I would do, regularly, but it was fun. But anyway, that is going to do it for my review of Godzilla King of the Monsters. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Join me about a week or so for the predictions, a couple days actually, for the predictions and review of JW's shitty Saudi Arabian pay-per-view. How do I know it's going to be shitty when it hasn't happened yet? Just trust me. But that is going to do it for this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to check out any of my social media links, they are all in the description. Thank you to all 11 of my patrons who are named in the description. I appreciate you all for helping support me and my 2 channels. But my name is Noah Taft. This has been my review of Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.